Good evening. Welcome to High on Sugar. In today's episode, named P for Psychology, my name is Shlok Jaguste and my co-host Varun Gokhale. I have two experts today on the chat, on the call, who will ask some deep questions regarding their field of expertise, that is psychology, and how in today's world where uh, a person suffers from mental burnout or mental breakdowns, how do we move forward, how do we move forward from this problem? So we have two
So
experts today
today
with us.
we have two panelists who would throw some light on the common questions related to mental health, curated by general public in our initiative Speak It Out with Baymax in collaboration with Success Fever. Our first panelist for the day is Dr. Keelangate James Joseph, who is the director of Samagrata Life Coaching Consultants in Mumbai. And our second panelist is Mr. S. Mohammad Arafat Hussain, who is a mindset coach. So I welcome both of you on behalf of Shubhashish Initiative to this interesting talk show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. James, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
Okay. So I'm basically a trained life coach. I did my also training in social work and human services. So I know how people interact with each other and how people struggle in their life to take themselves forward. So that's familiar. So it's we are on familiar territory. So yeah, I'm happy to answer some of the questions that you will throw at me.
Thank you, doctor. Mr. Arafat, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Uh, basically, I'm an MBA graduate, so I have worked for in corporate in like 1 year. So after working in corporate, so I just started like notifying like my talent is not here. Okay, I need to like I go on with my dream. So I just quit my job. So I took on a certification, like certifications on life course, which I like most admire a lot. So I started working on like making and studying things about mindset of people, how it affects their like day-to-day life, and how it affects their success. So that's why I'm here to take the question. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Arafat. So we'll start with the questions for today. We'll start with Dr. James. So, in today's world, where productivity has taken a forefront in the industrial sector as well as as well as in jobs and uh, businesses, so in today's sector, it is very important to keep our thoughts in control. So, how would we go about doing that?
That's a very interesting question that we raise about how to keep your thoughts in control. It was philosopher Rene Descartes who said, cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. So which simply means that as human beings, we are people who think, thinking beings. So what does that mean? It means that we constantly are thinking about numerous things. So the question arises, should we control our thoughts? Or should we give some order to it? Or should we make our thoughts purposive? So since our mind is very dynamic and is constantly thinking on various kinds of things, I think the best way to go about is to structure one's thinking. So if you put a little structure into what you are thinking, some order, and then give ourselves things like me time or downtime, so then we are able to kind of, okay, switch off and switch on. But we are still thinking. And then also go into, say, areas like, for example, okay, this time I will focus on positivity. So positive ways of looking at things. Listen to some soft and soothing music. Doing things that interest me and energize me. So we are still thinking. So to summarize, I would say, try and not control your thoughts, because that is pointless. But important thing is to give purpose, give direction to your thoughts and order them. And it may be at some times take a pen and paper, write them down, write your thoughts down, and maybe even select one area of your interest to think a little deeper into it. Because as I said again, we are people who will always keep thinking. So trying to control your thoughts is a useless enterprise. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Now, moving on to the next question, which I would like to ask Mr. Arafat Hussain, that in today's world, people are dealing with high amount of insecurity towards everything that is coming into their life, and always being distracted by either the electronic gadgets that they have with them, or with any of their thoughts, or any other work that they have. So they are not able to keep themselves focused at one point. So my question to you is, how is a person to deal with insecurities, and how can he stay concentrated?
Fine. Great question. See, first of all, we need to accept the fact that what is insecurity? Insecurity is nothing but a lack of confidence that humans have. Okay? So if I feel I'm not confident about doing certain things, okay, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, oh my god, what's going to happen next? So all this overthinking will lead to that. Okay? So first thing you need to do is we need to stop comparing ourselves with others. So this is a starting point I would say for insecurity. So don't start comparing yourself with others. See, this is like everybody says that you are unique, but how much of us have understood that and using that point in our own life? So most of us, we don't self-evaluate ourselves, like knowing our strength, knowing our weakness, like knowing our opportunities, knowing our threats. So as Sir said, we need to write it down. It's a fact that we used to fail to think like in going forward. So in this motion of life, so we tend to forget a lot of things. But see, writing down has a lot of power. So making sure, okay, this is what my power is. So this is what my area of strength. So if you are unique and you are like clear about what my strengths are, so insecurities are no way reaching you. So this is the first thing that you can do. Second thing is, see, the things that we see, the things that we hear, all these things influence us a lot, right? See, positive thoughts, negative thoughts. So this is there all around you. So see, the negative thought is more. So you need to make sure the positive thought is defending that. So make sure concentrating on the positive thoughts. Okay, what is this positive thoughts? How can I attain them? Okay, start doing things that you are good at. So by this way you can completely crack down the insecurities, I would say.
Thank you, Mr. Arfat.
Dr. James,
Doctor,
do you have any suggestions on the same point which Arafat Hussain had? Any points that you would like to share?
No, I would say that's okay. I mean, he's quite well explained the issues of insecurities. Right now, I would leave it at that. Yeah.
Dr. James, another question to you. Nowadays, failure is demonized as something that should be avoided. And especially for those people who experience their very first failure, they don't know how to handle it. So how should people handle their first failure or failure in general?
This is a very good question, because how to deal with failure? We all have been helped to understand and to deal with success. Constantly our parents encourage us and pat our backs and say, well done, keep it up. So these are the ways when we appreciate success. But actually very few of us, even as parents, we sit down with our children and help them to deal with failure. And so that's a big challenge for a lot of the young people. And my simple response to that question would be, for as an individual, as a young adult, to ask the question, what is the worst possible scenario that can happen after this failure? What is the worst possible scenario? So think about the worst possible scenario. Once you know what that worst possible scenario is, then you ask, okay, can I deal with it? And most of the time when we know what is the worst possible scenario, then you realize that it is not a big demon at all. It is something simple, something easy, and something that you can always confront. So maybe after a failure in exams or a failure in this particular term, meeting or facing up to our parents is probably the worst scenario for a lot of the young people. But once you have mentally gone over that exercise, walk through that journey several times in our mind, or even talk with our friends, then when the actual scenario comes, it becomes a simple task. And then even for us, we kind of put in place certain structured responses that the parents will have towards our failure. And then when we meet the situation, we realize that it is not that at all. They probably are a lot more understanding, a lot more accepting of a failure than we ever anticipate, because they themselves had faced failures in our life. So first, when you face failure, think, what is the worst possible scenario that I will have to deal with it? Think about it, visualize it, and then maybe even talk to your friends, and then realize that, okay, it is not a huge disaster after all. I can deal with it. But the important thing is, next time work hard so that you succeed, which is important. And that is the lesson that one must learn from failures, to be able to succeed and overcome that failure. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Arafat, I would like to ask you to share your thoughts on the same question, and also answer the question in passing that how would one stave off the paranoia of thinking the worst case scenario for every single situation?
See, first thing, I think regarding get failure, so we need to accept the fact that failure is the process of success. So it's not something which is not diverted out of success. See, the way of thinking is very much important here. So if at all you think failure is something bad, then you're wrong. If failure is there, okay, it's a process. Okay, we go, we try, we fail. Okay, because we have did something bad. We haven't thought about the uncalculated part of the risk of the process. So in that case, okay, yeah, it's okay to get down. Okay, so but next time make sure, okay, I'm not making the same mistake. Okay, so we need to make sure, okay, this is what I've done my mistake. So I'm going to work on it. I'm going to strategize it properly. And also I'm making sure there will be a proactive move from my end, making sure no mistake will come again, which is out of my control. And I will not give any reason for that assessment. So in that case, failure is okay. Come on, you're going a good track. So, those failures will make you more imaginative. So that's what I would say about the failure. And the thing that you said, can you just hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? The screen is stuck actually. Yeah. 1 second.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. The second question you asked, can you please come up with that again?
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to just know for our viewers, how do we stave off, thinking about the absolute worst case scenario, even if it is not possible? Sometimes we go into paranoia. How do we avoid that in this case?
Okay, so you need to know about the situation very well. Okay, so this is what I'm going to deal with. Okay, as sir said, what of the worst case scenario that can happen? Okay, so this is something with regard to the choice. Okay, what are the worst kind of choices that I have? Sit down, write it down. Okay, right. Okay, what is my aim? So this is what I'm gonna do. Okay, what are the choices that is given to me so that I could choose the worst one? Okay, so this is the worst one. Okay, it's okay. So let's face it. It's all about the mindset. So if you have the right mindset, the right mindset comes when you have a good knowledge, good practice, and good hardworking tendency. So all these things will keep you confident to face that situation. So in that case, I don't think so any paranoia can stop you from doing something.
That was well said, Mr. Arafat. Now I would like to move on with the next question to you, which is how can a person deal with feeling low and sad?
Yeah.
if a person is low or sad during any situation that comes around his way, which he has never expected, and now he feels low that how am I going to face it, or no, he feels sad on I don't have any choices to go further. So how is that person going to come out of this situation?
Again and again, the word influence is very much important here because our mindset is getting influenced with a lot of things which are around you, the things that we see, the things that we hear. So the moments that happen to us, see somebody leaving us, somebody entering in our life, we are reading a book, all these things impact us a lot, both mind and both heart waves. So it impacts us a lot. The feeling of flow. So, so it's some kind of pain. See, as a human, we need to accept. Okay, so if I pinch myself, there's a pain. Okay, it's pain. So my feeling, so my reaction is crying. Just cry it out. So just stop. See, just start reacting what you are getting. Okay, so you shouldn't stop it. Feeling low means okay. You can cry if you want, or you can share it to somebody else. Do something. Just take efforts to come out of it. That's the thing. See, what the most important thing I would say is reacting to the situation. So it's not we who are bad, the situations are bad. So we need to understand, okay, this is some kind of illusion that's happening around us and not us. So we should be clear about it. So if we are strong at it, so we can achieve anything. All these low feelings, we can come out of it. So these are the temporary things that keep us down. So we have to break out and come out of.
Thank you, sir. I would like to ask if Dr. James has any points on this question, that how to deal with feeling low and sad.
Okay, as people, human beings, we are always confronted with multiple scenarios. Even if we have the same experience, people respond to it differently. There are some people who respond to a particular scenario in a very sad, unhappy, difficult, in a stressful manner. The others would just ignore it, and they would just move ahead and do something else. But there are some others who would like to see the brighter side of that. Okay, they say, okay, there is something to teach me. There's something that is I need to learn from it, and so they try to see some good in that, and take something away from it. So it is also as Arafat was saying, it's also about a person's mindset. I mean, how the person has been mentally structured. Some are very positively oriented, and so they, even if it is in the most unhappy situation, they'll find joy in that. They're able to find certain things that will steer them away from being pulled down to keep moving up. So that is where I think we need to kind of focus sometimes on our inward self or inner self, and strengthen that inner self, so that we are more free, willing to move away, willing to find joys in even the most unhappy experiences. That is something that I would also encourage the young people to kind of focus on that self training, to be able to look at the brighter side of things. Okay.
Well said, doctor. For the next question, doctor, from the topic of failure and sadness, many people translate those feelings into anger. So how do we curb, or not curb, rather, how do we prevent such anger from going towards somewhere that we don't want?
Okay, when we talk of anger, we always talk of anger management. That means that anger is always there, but we learn how to manage our anger. In fact, I think we must be angry. It's an emotion that we have, and we must express it. And it's very important to express anger, because if you don't express anger, then you will have a problem with it. So express anger, but because if you keep bottling up your anger or suppressing it, it will show up in some other way, because it becomes a psychosomatic disease after some time. So expression of anger is very, very important. But how do we express it? To what extent do you express it? Those are important questions. And to whom do you express it? And that brings me to this point of, okay, some persons can be very angry with others, and they can also be angry with themselves. And that's very important, because If you are angry with other people, which is external, then you can develop strategies to control that. For example, a very simple strategy that is often suggested is the 10-second rule. When you're angry with somebody, you take 10 seconds, you just count 10, 9, 10, 9, and you count down up to 0 before you say anything. So there is no impulsive response, an immediate response, but it's a very considered slow response, which means you are able to manage your anger. And that's exactly manage your anger. So giving yourself 10 seconds is a way to manage your anger. And of course, there are many other strategies. I mean, often one strategy that I suggest is in order to, if you're angry with somebody, really, really angry with somebody, go to your room, take a sheet of paper, write down all that you want to say to that person. Write it down. Once you write it down, which means you are pouring out onto that sheet of paper all the anger that has been pent up. So once you write it down, you have ventilated yourself. You have given expression to the anger. And once you have on paper all your anger, and then your anger is actually gone. So when you meet the next person, you can be sure that the intensity anger has come down significantly. So writing down, and I always suggest people, okay, once you write it down, just burn it off. Burn that sheet of paper, because then it is burnt away. All your anger has been burnt away as you burn up that paper. But more importantly, I mentioned about the self-anger, when you internalize your anger. And that's why sometimes, it leads to other situations. There is self-harm becomes another part of the problem. And that's where one needs to be very careful. So one needs to be angry with oneself. One needs to stop being angry with oneself. One needs to forgive oneself. So the act of self-forgiving is a very important part. And one must learn to forgive the self, because we do make mistakes and we must forgive ourselves. And that's part of being a human being. And because I don't know if some of you must have come across, the people self-harm, they cut themselves, they harm themselves, and they kind of go into this very, very depressive state of okay, everything is wrong because of me. So that is a part of that anger that they have about themselves. So that is something that people must be very sensitive about. Of course, when you're angry and at a situation, also another strategy that is often suggested is to walk away from it. I mean, give yourself space. So walk away. So creating space in an angry environment is a very suitable strategy that one must have. So anger will always be there. We'll always have situations where anger will be created, but we learn to manage our anger. The success in being able to know, understand when these situations arise and be prepared to manage anger. Okay.
Well said, sir. Especially, people say that harsh words cannot be taken back. So your theory about counting down to 10, or your suggestion is, will prove very useful for many people. Mr. Arafat, Mr. Arafat, would you like to elaborate on this topic, especially on self-anger?
See, again, I'm saying self-evaluation is also a part where we need to think about the anger. The anger is a very important expression that we do. Okay, so it creates a lot of impact both on us and both on others. So after reacting, sometimes we may feel bad. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Oh my God. So that's an instant reaction that we do. Okay, so what we have to do is, again, you have to take a paper. You have to write it down. So when you work on yourself, so this is how you work on yourself. Okay, I'm an angry person. Okay, I'm an angry person. Accept that. But this has been registered in your brain. Just because somebody has told to you, okay, you are an angry person. You are an angry person. If he gets angry, he's a short-tempered person. Yeah. So please be away with him. So all these words are being in your head. Maybe that could also provoke you to these kind of activities. So my suggestion would be write it. Okay, I'm an angry person. So there's a negative thought is been in your head. So just opposite. I am not an angry person. So I'm a happy person. So make sure that is around your room somewhere, or it could be a phone wallpaper. So I'm a happy person. So this could rework your brain and make sure like, the level of anger is like much less, both on yourself and both on others. Second thing is working out. Working out will create a lot of like releases a lot of anti-anger hormones, so which will help you to like maintain the reaction towards the anger.
Thank you.
Uh, it was very good learning how to control your anger from Dr. James and Dr. Arafat. Especially, I like that advice of Dr. James where he told to write it down on a paper and burn it, because I am such a kind of person, and I have tried it after my 12th, after I failed my GE, and I got a lot of scoldings at home. So I was a bit angry when someone suggested me that you just write all your anger, put down all your anger on a sheet of paper, and then just burn it off, so that you do not feel that problem again, or you do not keep that anger in your heart. So that was well said. Sir, we will
Flush it out as well. So if at all burning doesn't work, you can even flush it out.
yeah.
Welcome back. Well, it was a very deep and very thought-provoking first half with Dr. James and Mr. Arafat. I think, without engaging in some talk, we should move forward with the next question. Right?
So my next question is to Mr. Arafat Hussain, that how do we heal our mental wounds? That anger causes us a lot of grief and a lot of harm to ourselves. So how are we supposed to heal such mental wounds?
See, as I said earlier, facing the situation is different from reacting to the situation. So your attitude matters here a lot. It matters here a lot. See, so if at all you're affected by some situation or some person or like any other forces that attack you, so you have to make sure, okay, so this has been done. Okay, this is over. Okay, I'm affected. So you have to first react it. Make sure you burn it down, or you cry it out, or you make sure like you release all the negative energy out of you, and make sure you have a purpose. Okay, like this is what my purpose of life about, so I'm going to concentrate on that. So which is more important, like being affected or moving forward? Just make sure you make choices. So in that case, so like it will provoke you to most probably going forward to the good life that you have. Just think about the life. So think about the good things and think about the things that you love to do. Like listen to the positive songs, like good songs like that you love. Like start with your hobbies. So all these things will distract you, and be with the person who are most happy, like you feel with. So this is something that you can come out of the mental wounds, and so that will heal you faster.
Thank you, Mr. Arafat, for a thought-provoking answer. And I would like to ask if Dr. James has any suggestion or any point to add to this question.
Okay. So mental wounds and physical wounds. I mean, these are two parallel scenarios. My response is that just as we treat our physical external wounds, and imagine how we treat it. Like for example, okay, we have, say on our hand, we have a wound, a large wound for that matter. We go to a doctor, and then the doctor would examine, the nurse would examine, and then, they would put meds, clean it up, medicine on it, and then, bandage it. Likewise, a mental wound has to be healed. And it has to be healed when we kind of have support from people around us. In our life, there are significant others who support us, who want our success, who want us to be happy and to be cheerful. These persons may be our parents, our siblings, our friends, our close friends, our classmates, whoever they are. So approach them, talk to them, explain to them what you have gone through, what has been hurting down there, what has been the hurt. Open it up, open it to them, and let them kind of, through the process of listening to you, and let them clean up that wound, and then put medicine on it, bandage it, comfort it. A gentle hug that is given to somebody, it's a big bandage. A gentle hug that's given to somebody. Patting somebody on their back and saying, okay, it's no problem, just forget about it, just That's also medicine and bandages put on. So we need these hugs, we need these pads, and we need all these things to be able to heal those wounds. Because like a physical wound, these mental wounds are there. They need these people who are around us will support us to heal them. We need them. We need to expose them to these wounds. So even me, if I'm hurt, I need to expose my hurt to other people so that they understand it, we clean it, and we wound it. If I don't show that to anybody, it begins to fester. It becomes bigger, bigger, and bigger. So that process is very important. Sharing it, exposing it, getting support from other people to heal it. And finally, it gets healed in the process.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your very good suggestion. I would like also our viewers to know that there was a movie called Munna Bhai MBBS. So there was this one famous dialogue, "Mujhe jadoo ki jhappi do." So anyone who is hurt mentally or physically, go and hug a person whom you are very close to. That will basically release out all the pressure that you have or any pain that you have in your heart. So a hug is very sufficient in order to heal your wound. That is what Dr. James said. Shlok, can we please move forward with the next question?
Yes, absolutely. Dr. James, this next question would be for you. In today's world, where communication is so important, where no man can be alone without friends or family. Sometimes, we say some words that we regret later, or we want to voice our thoughts, but they come out in a wrong way. So how do we make sure that we, talk to someone, we convey sweet and bitter thoughts without hurting them?
All right, so this is what we call, you have to, what you call, walk the talk. And, sometimes call a spade a spade. I mean, it's harsh. I mean, it's a harsh thing. You have to do it. And sometimes it's very painful to do that. But here, some practice is very useful. If you really have to talk to somebody a matter that is a bit painful, to be difficult for the other person to take, and even difficult for you to communicate it to the other person, it's a good idea to have this conversation first with somebody whom you know. Get a friend. Okay, tell them, listen, I have this thing that I want to talk to you, and this is a trial run, a dry run, and I want to see how it goes. Have a dry run with this person, have a trial, and then okay, and you get a feedback from the other person, and then okay, this is how it goes. And in the process, you also learn how to choose the right words and how to select the words, because selecting your words is very, very important. And so have a dry run. And if you really have to have a hard talk with somebody, have a trial run first with a friend who can understand you and who can support you. And then once you've done that, you go and meet the person and say, okay, I want to talk to you, and this is what I want to say. You are well prepared, and you have chosen the language, and you can do it, and you will do a very good job. And you are sure, because you are the trial run, you are more confident to kind of respond to the reactions of the other person. And that would be my suggestion.
Very well suggested, Dr. James. So in short, be direct, be truthful, but don't be hurtful.
Yeah.
So Mr. Arafat, would you like to elaborate something on this?
Yes, I would say with an example with the situation that I had on my own. Say I had a friend, as sir said, so I have two friends. So one friend who is like too expressive, who takes things very seriously. So even if you make a joke of him, so he takes it very seriously. So what we did is, so we told him, boss, this is what you are about. See, sometimes people don't understand. So people won't self-realize about themselves. So we need to tell them. So as sir said, choosing of words is very much important, right? See, like you can't say, hey, you are bad. Hey, you are not bad. So that's a difference. So choosing of words is very much important. So that's good. Like tell them the truth, like rather than hurting them, like which is later part.
Dr. James, I would like to ask one more question. Sometimes we give feedback to others, right? If we are in a job, in a professional capacity, or even to a friend. So if we have to give a negative feedback, then how do we go about it?
When in a professional context, when you have to give any feedback, you can always say, okay, listen, this is my point of view from the professional side. Don't take it personally. I admire you as a person, but from for the sake of the corporate situation or for the sake of the company or for the sake of the office that we are in, I have to say this to you, and this is what it is. And with this prefix, if you put it forward, then the person understands it. Okay, yes, this is maybe something which I did which was not in line with the company policy, and he has to point it out to me. He values me, he admires me, but then okay, I have to accept that. So when that prefix is very important, so you make a distinction between, okay, as a person I support you, but in this context, this is something I have to tell you, and it is a painful thing. So that separation is useful at times.
Thank you, Doctor. I would like to share just a small snippet from a Hollywood sports movie called Moneyball, where the owner of the team, a baseball team, wants to fire his players. So he asks the coach asks him, okay, so how do I tell them without hurting them? So he gives a reply: just be straight and be honest. They are professional sports players. They have to take care of it. So that's, I think, the moral here. Be honest, be direct, but don't be hurtful. Don't be rude. Okay, Varun, you can.
Yeah, one more point actually I would like to add. Just a second, Varun. Because see, like truth is something. Okay, even if you are angry, see that's why it's called bitter. So it's okay to take it up. See, that's more makes more sense. Like rather than lying and making sure they are okay. No, cut it out. This is okay. Take this and just move forward. That's it.
Yeah,
Um,
very well said, sir.
so, Mr. Arafat, the next question that I would like to ask you is, many people, when we are working in an office or a corporate place, or even in school or college, wherever we are, even when we are having a healthy discussion with our family, we very well many times feel that whatever opinion that we have is the best suited for us, and we feel that we just might want to force our opinion onto others. That is what basically a human thinks about, that if I feel that this is the way it should be done, then I should uh, get to make it done with other people also. Then everyone should be able to follow what my opinion is. But the problem comes is when, because everyone is different in thinking, everyone has a different opinion. So how do we exactly move about and give importance to others' opinions rather than just considering our opinion to be the best?
See, well, first of all, you need to like, listen to everyone. Okay, so you need to listen to everyone. If someone is telling to something to us, so there should be some relation with them. Okay, so for example, you're telling something to me means so you have something with me. Okay, so like we might be friends or we might be talking about some situations so which you have known and you have some opinions to tell to me. So listen to them, but it's your choice to take it up and apply in your life. There's nothing wrong in listening. See, see two things. See, one is, see, it might help you. Second thing is, it may not help you. So again, you have a choice. So you're left with a choice. I say, but listening is very much important, and applying is a choice. Simple. It's okay
Uh,
to listen. It's okay to listen to everything, but applying in life, you have to think. You have to like make sure. Okay, so if I'm doing this, what are the situations that is going to be in effect? So you need to think about it and make sure it, and you need to go ahead with the situation.
Uh, that was a very good answer, Mr. Arafat. I would like to ask Dr. James. So, when we have a group discussion, or when it is that your boss is interested a team of people to basically brainstorm on a given topic and bring out a unique suggestion that would help the company, or anywhere in the school or any college, or regarding any project for that matter, then how are we going to pick up the best opinion amongst all, rather than not just trying to overpower our way of opinion or our point of thinking to others? So how is that we come to a unison and try to bring out the best from the team of members that we have?
I guess the way forward would be often to discuss what is the common objective. So if we are very clear about, okay, what is the common objective, and what are we kind of looking for as the, as the way forward for the company, then when you look at the discussions, we can see, okay, whose points are favoring in that direction, whose ideas are, and which ideas are favoring in that direction. Maybe, of course, we'll also at some point in time separate between the person and the idea. So the persons are all equal, but some people have brighter ideas, more practical ideas, more ideas that will take the company to much greater heights. So those ideas are important. So when people know that they are all valued, and but what is important is the idea that is more profitable, that will give more profit for the company. So the ideas are taken. So people are not abandoned. So everybody feels still valuable, and everyone's opinions or ideas are listened to. But of course, keeping the objective of the company in mind, those ideas that will take the company to greater heights are taken up and put into action.
Thank
Well
you,
said,
sir.
Okay.
Just like sir, both our sirs mentioned about opinions. So we would like to know our viewers' opinions down in the comment section. So and you have also regarding choice. The viewers have a choice. If they like, the type of content we are putting on this channel, please consider subscribing and also leaving a like. Moving forward, Dr. James, when sometimes regarding opinions, things never things all seldom go in our way. There are many occasions where we have made a plan but the plan completely goes awry. So in that case, it is inevitable that some negativity creeps in, some self doubt creeps in. So how do we deal with the negativity or the self doubt?
All right. So if there is positivity, then there is negativity. Okay, they are two sides of the same coin. Now, it is not possible only to look for positive side. That's not possible. It always has a negative side as well. So at sometimes the negative sides confronts us more powerfully than the positive side. Okay. And of course, in those situations, what we have to do is, okay, what is the meaning of the negativity for me at this moment? Is it something that I caused it? Is it something that I have control over? Or can I change that situation? And that is something that the individual has to analyze. So negativity in itself is not bad. It has a force which can actually transform. So negativity can be used to channel the energy to positive side as well. So negativity in itself is not bad. So one does not always have to ignore or run away from negativity. Confront it. As we say, take the bull by its horns, and then you realize that it has a way of supporting you. I mean, it has a way of giving more understanding, as well as more putting you in your positive side as well. So do not have this idea that, okay, this is a negative thought, or this is a negative energy, or so this is negativity, that is I must try and ignore it as much as possible. Not necessarily. Face it. Find what is it that is going to support my growth, my moving forward, the group's growth, the group's more forward momentum. That's the important part. Just as positivity always support, negativity has also the potential to support if we do the right analysis. Okay.
Very well, sir. Very well said, sir. Mr. Arafat, would you like to elaborate on this question?
Yes. See, as Sir rightly said, there are two things: positivity and negativity. So in a recent post, so I used to do a lot of music. So I tagged my viewers just because they are creating a lot of positive mindset in myself. Just because I'm doing things which I like, so I'm getting a lot of appreciation, and I appreciate people a lot. So these things create a lot of happiness around me. So in spite of having a lot of negativity, so just imagine, okay, I'm having a stressful thoughts, negative thoughts, okay, what I'm going to do in my life, or those responsibilities, or something which is torturing you. So you should have to defend yourself with a lot of positive thoughts. So engage in activities so which cheers you up. So talk with people who create smiles. So beat the negative thoughts with the positive thoughts. So increase. So if the negative thoughts is increasing, so all you have to concentrate is on the positive thoughts. Doing things which increase your positive thoughts. So you need to control yourself. So you need to structure yourself. Okay, come on, boss, let's fight. Okay. So that kind of attitude should be like developed. So this is what my opinion on this.
Very well said, sir.
Moving on to the next question that I have for you, Mr. Arafat, is in today's world, everyone is under stress. Basically, in this during this lockdown, everyone has come under stress that they are not able to go out of their houses, or they are not able to uh, be the same as they were before the lockdown. And there is many time there are many scenarios in our life which have brought us criticism, and there are also some people around us who try to demotivate us at times. So how is that to deal or how do we deal with stress, constant criticism, and demotivation?
Two things again. See, one thing is to things that you can do it by yourself, which are under your control. Second things, so if you don't know how to control it, you have to consult a mindset coach or a life coach, so who might help you by asking some powerful questions. Because in most of the case, see, we never realize what is the problem. See, it causes stress, so we may not know it. Okay, what is the stress contacting point? So we need to first eliminate it. So in that case, there are two options. So one is self-realization. Okay, this is what which is causing problem. Okay, I need to move out of it. So some people have self-realization. Okay, so they will work on themselves. So people who used to think about themselves will know. There are some people who never know what is happening around them, but still they are facing the stress. So in that case, they might consult a psychologist or counseling where they can speak it out in a proper manner. Simply we can't just ask a few questions and make sure they're okay. So the right question needs to be asked. So that's the job of a life coach. So as a life coach, so the questions that will provoke you to answer, okay, so that will make you realize, okay, this is what, okay. So this kind of thing like needs to be done. Second thing, demotivations and criticisms. So that happens every time. So if at all you are confident about the subject that you are dealing with, so you can face it and you can learn it. So two things. So you can face it or you can learn from it. So you have to accept. So if you are a progressive person, so you have to accept both. Okay, somebody's criticizing me. Okay, so if something different that they are telling me, okay, I'm taking that because that is good. So that attitude is good. Okay, they are doing it just for a purpose. Ignore it. So you have a life with a purpose. Just go ahead with this. So in that case, like no demotivation will be there. So, and one more tip that I can give is make sure you are surrounded by the positive thoughts, like your motivation mantra or your inspiration. So seeing those people or reading that phrases, affirmations will like make your mind more like motivated, I would say.
Well said, Mr. Arafat. I would also like to ask Dr. James that since you are at a very high post in Samagrata Life Solutions, so when you were working, how would you or how had you dealt with criticism or demotivation because of the people around you, or how would you as a life coach be giving tips to people on how to deal with such scenarios?
Okay, criticisms will always be there in one's life. That is part of our life, and that's part of the growth process. Because why are we criticized? Because we have deficits. And deficits are what? Deficits are what? Actually, they are areas of growth that are slow or lack of growth. So criticism will be there. And then of course, as we work on those criticisms, we find ourselves being transformed or we are growing up. Basically, I would understand that this whole session is actually for the audience is young people, especially university going people who are kind of locked down, who are constantly at home, and who have to deal with, say, for example, their parents at home, or people, their siblings at home. And the stress is often caused by the interaction, the relationship that happens within the close environment that they are living in, and that they have to interact with them constantly, and it gives rise to higher stress. One of the things I would simply say is that the people in the family context, people who live with, they are not your enemies. They are not your enemies. They are your well-wishers. Your parents, your siblings, they are your well-wishers. So to give them a patient hearing at sometimes reduces a lot of stress. What happens usually is that, okay, when we do not listen to them, the stress level goes up simply because we think that they are there to stop us from doing what we want. They are there to prevent us from what we do. So this kind of thoughts actually gives rise to a lot of stress. But if on the other hand, you say, okay, listen, they are telling me something. Let me try and understand what they are telling me. Is there any truth behind that? And can I point out to them, okay, the hollowness of the discussion? So if these things are done, you realize that the stress level usually comes down a lot. Sometimes what happens even for young people, there are certain physical factors. I mean, there are growth hormones, or, there are certain, the physical structures that they are actually experiencing, that they're going through. It prevents them from slowing down. But I think they must at certain times make a conscious choice to slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit, to take time to listen to other people and to digest, okay, what the others are saying, and then give a response to that. And these three processes are very important. And once that is done, then probably stress levels will come down. And that's been my experience. And even the elders, they give you advices, because in family, elders would give advice. But if you sit down as a friend to talk to them and ask them their opinions, they are also willing to share opinions. And in the process, you realize that, okay, they are not that bad after all. They are not that dangerous after all. So that is very important scenario I would suggest to a lot of young people, because a lot of the stress comes from this human relationship. And talking is very, very important. Keep talking. Talk to people. That conversations within the family is a very important thing. Because sometimes what happens is, if we close ourselves, we shut ourselves in our rooms, we do not communicate. And then, that barrier becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. And then finally we find ourselves completely isolated. And that's a dangerous scenario. Okay, I stop there.
Very well said, sir. We'll, wrap this up interview with one last question for both our panelists.
Two more questions
And
that we have, basically. And Shlok will be asking the first question that we have.
yeah, so us as people nowadays have set ourselves into a routine. There is a for us college students, it is wake up, go to college, come back, do your homeworks, do your studies, and eat, sleep, and work and repeat. So people have set themselves into this this is sort of a shackled routine. So if someone wants to seek freedom, or if someone is wants to seek freedom of soul, freedom of mind, or they want to get away from their daily routine, so how would you advise them to do that? We'll start with Dr. James.
Okay, so when we talk about freedom, freedom is a very subjective matter. The way I understand freedom, the way I construct my freedom, the way I want to have my freedom is completely different from other people. It's a very subjective thing. For me, for example, getting hold of a book, finding a quiet corner, and sitting down to read it, maybe the whole day, is complete freedom for me. I have achieved a very high sense of joy. I am completely happy. I am a serene, joyful person because that's freedom for me. So, but for some other people, they would kind of rebel at this idea. I mean, rebel at this idea of, that kind, because they would like to have loud music, a lot of action, and they would like to, maybe very activity oriented person. So at the end of the day, I think it's very important for each of us to understand what is it that brings us joy? What is it that brings us joy? What is it that gives us a certain amount of serenity, happiness? That is freedom for a lot of us. So once you are able to pinpoint that and then communicate that with the people around us, then others also understand, okay, what is our sense of freedom? What is it that we enjoy? And then they give us the space to do that as well. And that's important. We must find our space to enjoy our freedom. So knowing what it is, that's important in the first place. Okay, I stop there.
Mr. Arafat, would you like to comment on this question?
Yes, yes. See, first thing you need to define what is my freedom. Okay, okay. So what is happening? So things that makes me happy. I need to same thing. Write it down. There's nothing wrong in writing because writing has a direct connection to the brain. So it's a scientific fact. You can write it down. Okay, doing these things makes me happy. Okay, doing this thing, talking with these people, or getting engaged with an activity. Okay, this is wow. So this is freedom for me. Just realize it. Start writing down. Just realize it and do it often. This is what freedom is all about. If someone is stopping you, so you have a good explanation. Okay, boss, this is making me happy. So why are you stopping it? So you have the point to explain. So even if it's parent, so you can be able to tell them, Dad, this is what making me doing happy. Playing guitar makes me happy. Playing drums makes me happy. Reading book makes me happy. Talking, like writing blogs, whatever it is. First, understand what makes you happy and what is freedom to you. Define it and just do it. And write it on what are the things that you have to do to make sure you are free. Simple.
Thank you, Mr. Arafat. And the last question for today's talk, which I would like to ask Dr. James, is currently we saw the rise in depression and suicides that are happening around us due to the COVID-19 scenario, where people are getting depressed that they have contracted with COVID-19, and how is it possible that I may get out of this situation, or something like that, due to personal issues, or either professional issues, or the current pandemic which is causing. So how would you advise people on how to overcome this depression? Like we had the
Okay.
Sushant Singh Rajput suicide case, where people say that he had depression.
Yeah, okay. Actually, yesterday I was talking to a group of people, and I used the example of a pressure cooker. In fact, I had a pressure cooker here at my side. I demonstrated with them. So I always say is we all go through a degree of pressure, and pressure is good. Pressure is good. We must have pressure, and we must experience pressure. We are under heat. People around us give us a lot of heat, and then the heat and the fact that it's a sealed container and that there is ingredients inside, and the pressure helps it to prepare it well. But the pressure cooker has an important device. There's a valve, there's a nozzle that releases steam whenever there's excess pressure. But of course, if that doesn't work, then if the pressure builds up and builds up and builds up, then it explodes. And explosion becomes the most dangerous scenario. What we must learn is, at the end of the day, is how do we release the pressure? How do we release pressure? What mechanisms do I have to relieve pressure? Is it me playing guitar? Is it me listen to music? Is me going and throwing basketball? What helps me to release pressure? We all know at some point in time, maybe for some of us, watching movies is as a way of releasing pressure. Maybe for some of us, it's drawing, taking up a brush and paint, and maybe painting the wall or painting a paper. That releases pressure. Identify what helps you to release pressure, and go back to that again and again and again, so that you constantly are releasing pressure. Talk to people. Talking to people is also very important. But for some people, talking to people is a complete way of releasing pressure. So it's very important for us as individuals to identify those mechanisms or those strategies that we have inherently, because these are there within us. We need to identify and cultivate them, make them strong, so that we know that, okay, once we are under pressure, we are able to go out and do this. And then when we come back, we are free, we are more relaxed, we are more calm, and then we are able to function normally. So that is very important, because when we fail to identify that, we just get bottled up and pressure builds up and we get confused. We don't know what to do. And then suddenly realize that, okay, this explosion happens. And let's not wait for that time for the explosion. Let's every now and then get that pressure off by releasing the pressure. Do things that we love to do, that that ventilates us and helps us to be remain calm and steady. Pressure is good. We must be under pressure often, which is good because it helps us to cook the food, or to do the processes that we are engaged in, do it well. So that pressure is important in life.
Very well said, Doctor. So with this, we will come to an end to our discussion. We thank both our panelists, Dr. James and Mr. Arafat. Dr. James, if one of our viewers would like to reach you or your association, how would they do so?
I can leave my contact numbers with you, and also my email addresses with you, so that they could send me an email or send me a WhatsApp message, and we can communicate. Yes. You want me to
How
say?
about,
Do you want
no,
me
sir.
to?
We'll put
Okay.
it in the description, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Arafat, how about you?
I can give you my mail ID. At the same time, I can give my WhatsApp number so that they could reach me through text. So if at all if there's a need of call, we can further make it.
Okay, so we will leave the email IDs and the contact numbers for both our panelists down in the description. If any one of our viewers wants to, come in contact with them, discuss their personal problems, or discuss, some things that they are, feeling heavy on their minds, they can do so. We thank both our panelists for giving us their time of the day and, engaging in such meaningful conversation and giving such meaningful advice to our viewers out there. And I'm sure many of our viewers are also thankful to you. So with that, we come to an end to this session. We come to an end to P for Psychology on High on Sugar. And if you have any opinions or criticisms of this topic, please leave it in the comment section. And if you want to follow or want to access similar content, please like and subscribe. And thank you very much and good night.
Thank you very much and good night. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.
Please like, share and subscribe to our channel Shubhashish Initiative.